And the group, I met the head of Somalia. Did you know that? And I suggested that maybe he'd like to take her back. He said, I don't want her. Okay. What you want?
Guys, something really crazy is happening. When Dan Bongino starts out his day at 4 a.m. posting a cryptic message from his personal account, God bless America and all those who defend her. That's from his personal account. This is right above this post from Kash Patel showing the ammunition from this horrendous, vile, disgusting animal that tried to take out the lives of some ICE agents. I don't know what's going on, but it very well could lead right into what's happening with Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War. But something crazy is happening inside of the Pentagon. Secretary Pete Hegseth has just summoned every United States general and admiral to a single closed-door meeting, a move that insiders are saying is unlike anything seen in 30 years. This isn't just another meeting. It's the start of a fundamental leadership reset for the entire U.S. military, or maybe something bigger. Maybe Trump and the Department of War have some bigger plans. The real question is about chaos or conflict, because Trump came out and said that he wanted to take that property back in Bagram in Afghanistan. But this is about a new strategy for what I would say the American strength. And we're going to break that down, what's really going on. But this week, Secretary Hegseth issued an order that has the defense world talking. Hundreds of the military's top brass are being called back to Virginia for a rare in-person summit. I did 20 years in the Navy. I never heard of anything like this. Having entire United States military leadership, commanders, generals, fleet admirals, all in the same area. They're calling them in from Europe, Asia, the Middle East. They're all returning. This is something strange. Something's cooking. Something is brewing. We're going to talk about where I think this is headed at the end. But the lack of an official explanation is what makes this so significant. But you see here, they're all headed to the Pentagon, hundreds of them. Donald Trump was asked about this meeting. He says, I love it. I think it's great. Trump said, why is that such a big deal? Basically saying these generals, these admirals work for the Secretary of War. They work for him. This is a great image. Trump, what's best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. What has Trump got planned? What has Pete Hegseth got planned? This is from Zero Hedge. Great account. Go and follow them. Now, in this meeting where Donald Trump was asked about this, he was also asked about, well, I'll just let this play.
And the group, I met the head of Somalia. Did you know that? And I suggested that maybe he'd like to take her back. He said, I don't want her. Okay. What else? You want to...
So Donald Trump brings up the head of Somalia, the prime minister of Somalia. He said he asked him if he would take Ilhan Omar back. Is this meeting in the Pentagon? Does this have something to do with the dangerous rhetoric and the violence that's happening here around the United States? Does this have something to do with the deportations of maybe people that are not America first? These congressmen and women that are born outside the United States that now hold office, and maybe their allegiances are to somewhere else. But you saw the president of the United States, just as clear as bell, say maybe they'll take them back. You see the vice president of the United States. You see Scott Bessent, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel. You see Stephen Miller. You don't see Dan Bongino there. I'll let you hear that again.
Maybe he'd like to take her back.
You've got to love it. I love that Marine, that jarhead, J.D. Vance, is really worth his weight in gold right now, and he's probably been the most significant pick for a vice president in American history. Now, something that I believe that really could be in play is Donald Trump designating Antifa as domestic terrorist. And you're going to see here what they've been capable of and what they've recently done. And this is the First ever arrest under this new legislation, under this new executive order. This comes from the post-millennial. You're going to see here, we're not playing any more games. It is time to buckle up. And Antifa, this is what you want. This is what you're getting. And you can see them arresting one of the members. This is outside of an ICE facility. The U.S. military is engaged. National Guard. Is this meeting with Pete Hegseth and these commanders? Is he going to ask these commanders if they have men and women to spare to come back and really engage these organizations like this? Because, and you see them getting arrested, getting locked away. I'd love to get your comment. Do you think this is the way we handle these protesters, this Antifa arm that has seemed to be plaguing America? Now, something else that could really shift the focus and incite some violence here in the United States are rumors that James Comey and John Bolton are about to be indicted and arrested. You saw the liberal media melt down from just a talk show host, Jimmy Kimmel, being canceled for 48 hours, 72 hours. What will Antifa, what will the left do if they were to arrest a former director of the FBI for some charges that are very heinous?
It stands for.
Joyce, if it is such a dire moment, what is your advice, your message right now to those people inside the Justice Department, inside these U.S. attorney offices, the rank and file prosecutors that are doing the work to bring cases like this one? What do you say to them?
So the mission inside of U.S. attorneys' offices across the country is to keep their communities safe. And in difficult times like this, the traditional advice to federal prosecutors is to keep their heads down, do the important cases in front of them. Because the cases that we're talking about, Anna, that's maybe 1% of what's going on in the Justice Department. But every day there's violent crime, there's drug crime, there's civil rights violations and white-collar crime that prosecutors and agents across the country are working on. The issue prosecutors are hardwired to understand, and I hope Americans will understand this too, is that when you become an assistant United States attorney or a political appointee in an office, you check your politics at the door. You walk in and you do your job looking at the facts and the law without fear or favor.
That seems like a great idea. You check your politics at the door. Is that what has been happening? I don't believe so.
That's what I believe Andrews and my former colleagues across the country are trying their hardest to do right now. There may be a moment for difficult choices coming for many prosecutors, and I hope that when those moments come, that the American public will stand up and support these people. I think if there is a move to indict Jim Comey, we will likely see resignations out of Alexandria and Richmond. We may see other forms of protest by career prosecutors. It's a unique moment, and I think that these people will rise to it.
Joyce Vance, Andrew White.
It seems like she's almost urging them to resign. Well, the justice system is for everyone, including former FBI directors, former directors of national security, former directors of the CIA, former presidents, current presidents. We saw that. So now that the shoe is on the other foot, justice doesn't mean anything. They're urging DOJ employees to step down. What are your thoughts about that? Because I know I want justice, and I believe the only way you get it is to set an example. But could this be part of the reason that the military is being called back here to the United States for some civil unrest, martial law? Let me know what you think in the comments.
Responsible for the uptick in left-wing violence in the country.
Radical left rhetoric. The radical left is causing the problem. They're out of control. They're saying things, and they're really dumb people. I mean, I look at Crockett. I look at some of these people. They're very low IQ people, actually. But the radical left is causing this problem, not the right. The radical left. and it's going to get worse, and ultimately it's going to go back on them. I mean, bad things happen when they play these games. And I'll give you a little clue. The right is a lot tougher than the left. But the right's not doing this. They're not doing it, and they better not get them energized, because it won't be good for the left. And I don't want to see that happen either. I'm the president of all the people. But the radical left is causing this. Radical left Democrats are causing this problem, and it gets worse. It gets worse, and it'll be a point where other people won't take it anymore, and that will not be good for the radical left, and we don't want that. Okay, thank you, Dave.
Do you think what President Trump is saying is true? Most of the violence that we've seen over the last couple of weeks has been from the left. Charlie Kirk, Dallas, Texas, go back to Butler, Pennsylvania, go back to Mar-a-Lago. The Justice Department was weaponized against that guy sitting there. The radical left is inciting violence, and it seems like conservatives, people on the right, are really somewhat moderate, not taking a lot of action. But how far can you push them, us, me, without some real replies happening? I'd love to get your opinion on this, because I really believe that what we're about to see with the military being called back, if that's what's going to happen, and this designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization, now we've got a No Kings rally coming up on October the 18th. Think about it. This is Benny Johnson. He was on with Tim Pool. And Benny really laid out exactly what many of you are thinking. This is 60 seconds of Benny Johnson talking that I believe everyone needs to hear. And Benny did a great job here.
I'm calling on the Trump administration, of whom I sat next to like the entire cabinet at Charlie Kirk's memorial service. I'm calling on all of them, as I did in my speech, to do what is biblically necessary and constituted in a moral society, which is for the government, according to Romans 13, that is properly instituted by God, to wield the sword and not wield it in vain, to wield the sword for the terror of evil men. It is the only solution. The only solution is that the left must be ruthlessly cracked down upon. There must be societal pressure, both culturally and through judicial means and through law enforcement means, but from the whole of government approach. I have left-wing violence. It must be serious. It must be the only talking point. It is the single most existential threat our country faces right now. We cannot go on like this with every single day there being a new spate of left-wing violence and more blood flowing through the streets. I'm calling on the Trump administration.
Tim Pool brought up a fact later on in this that he's had 20, 30 death threats. Benny Johnson's probably had the exact same. The doxing, the aggressiveness, for the people that keep saying, let's turn down the temperature in the room, they're really scaring the hell out of these people's families. Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, I differ on various things right now, but we're at a tipping point in the United States where we come together. The men that signed the Declaration of Independence, many of them did not like each other, but they came together for one common good, and that was to build a country that can withstand anything. And now we're at a tipping point where people within our own country are trying to rip us apart, dox us, get us fired from our jobs because of our political beliefs, and even take our lives. Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, keep doing exactly what you're doing. But the military does need to get involved at a certain level, and I hope they do. Now, another reason that I'm just going to put out there is this Department of War meeting with Pete Hegseth. This could be for this guy, Major Nadal Hassan. If you go back to 2009, he killed 13 co-workers at Killeen in Killeen, Texas. I believe the base was called Fort Hood at that time. I don't know what the Biden administration changed it to now. Former Army major psychiatrist. I believe he is Muslim. I'm not sure, but it would check with all the charts. But now the Secretary of War and many others are calling for his death penalty to be executed. He was given the death penalty. This would be the first military execution since 1961. Love to get your opinion. Is this warranted for what he did, the heinous crime? He was radicalized within our own military. Something needs to be done here. We need to set some examples. And the example is being set by the left. And we need to change that. We need to show them who's in charge. And before taking office, Pete Hegseth emphasized a back-to-basics approach, returning the military's focus to core warfighting principles. Officer training is apolitical, raising combat readiness standards across the board. The bottom line is this: while others speculate that the evidence points to a deliberate and historic effort to reshape the Pentagon's leadership, this next generation of warfighters needs to have confidence in their leadership. The young men and women that are joining the military, recruiting numbers are out the roof because Donald Trump came back into office. And we need to get rid of people like this that tried to destroy and actually killed 13 people, injuring 32. Now, the other brewing fiasco we've got down in the Caribbean for some of you. This is a special operations ship operated by the United States Military Sea Lift Command. This vessel was spotted 400 miles off the coast from Venezuela. This means things are about to go down in Venezuela. And this means Nicolas Maduro is probably worried and his days are numbered. I'm going to show you some images here of exactly what he's doing and what kind of leader that he is. He is arming old people and young girls. He is arming them because he's so afraid of the Trump administration. We need to stop the flow of drugs into our country. I feel sorry for these people because they're probably being forced to do that. This is the Ben Dykes Show. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment down below. Smash the like and subscribe button. Check out Keen Greens over here. Great daily supplement. There's a link in the description. Sponsor on the channel. Helps a veterans nonprofit. Thank you for watching. Things are going to heat up. And we really need to keep our eye on the ball. And the ball is making America great again. And we may very well have to do that by, well, we all know it's from within. Take care.